There's a real risk, actually, that the law will continue a long-standing pattern of systemic destruction and damage to Aboriginal cultural and heritage sites. And that's the concern of all of the Aboriginal land councils in the state and cultural leaders.
Now, why are you opposed to the law? Why are Indigenous groups opposed to the law? The miners, not surprisingly, have welcomed this draft law.
The law retains the right of the minister to make the decision to destroy and damage Aboriginal cultural heritage sites, including significant and sacred sites, if he wants to, basically. And that's been a problem because for 50 years since the Aboriginal Heritage Act was enacted, we saw the minister routinely give that permission to destroy and damage. In fact, that ancient site at Juukan Gorge had been approved lawfully for that blasting and destruction. And so that is a key issue here. We also want to see an independent statutory authority tasked with this important role of protecting Aboriginal cultural heritage. And we've also seen that Indigenous people have been deprived rights of merits review in the Act, unlike non-Indigenous proponents and mining companies who do have those rights.
Now, for its part, the Western Australian government says it's the best cultural heritage law in terms of protection of sacred sites. What do you say to that?
Oh, that's absolutely not true. And the fact that it was rushed through Parliament yesterday using COVID emergency law in complete disregard of all of the wishes of the key Aboriginal stakeholders shows that this is actually very shameful what's happening here in this state. And completely shocking in this day and age that Indigenous people would be treated in this manner with such disrespect.
Now, you and other traditional owners have gone to the United Nations to complain about this law. So what are you saying to them?
We're saying that the law isn't consistent with our international human rights obligations, the treaties that we are committed to, the International Covenant on the Elimination of Race Discrimination, which protects Aboriginal people's right to equality. And we're also saying that it's inconsistent with the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. And we've outlined how that is so in our submission. And we're saying that this is systemic and structural discrimination, which prioritises the rights and interests of the mining companies and the state, the economic interests above Indigenous culture, which shouldn't be treated in this way anymore.
So what's next for your campaign? The ABC has spoken to some traditional owners who support the draft law, such as Michael Woodley of the Inchibandi people.
Well, we are campaigning to the UN Committee on Race Discrimination and the Special Rapporteur on Indigenous people. And in relation to the support that's from some Indigenous people, overwhelmingly, it's not the case that Indigenous people actually have been protesting and relaying concerns and want this law properly co-designed. And I think that Mr Woodley actually hasn't had good advice and doesn't see the significant risk attached to this law. We have advice from an eminent legal mind, Greg McIntyre SC, that the law is actually entrenching race discrimination, particularly in relation to the review rights being accorded to non-Indigenous proponents, mining companies and developers, but being denied to Indigenous people.